दयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वयभट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसारकुलशेखरयोगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणुपरकालयतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यं नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत् व्यासं वसिष्ठनप्तारं शक्तेः पौत्रम् अकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकतातं तपोनिधिं व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः अचतुर्वदनोर्ब्रह्मा द्विबाहुरपरो हरिः अफाललोचनः शम्भुः भगवान् बादरायणः पाराशर्यवचःसुधां सुमनसः दुग्धाब्धिमध्योद्धृतां संसाराग्निविदीपन व्यपगतप्राणात्मसञ्जीवनीं पूर्वाचार्यसुरक्षितां बहुमतिं व्याघातदूरस्थिताम् आनीतां तु निजाक्षरैः सुमनसः भौमाः पिबन्त्वन्वहम् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवत रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिकाः भुवि भावुकाः सान्द्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमिदं कालदेशावदिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनः उरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावत् भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्तभाग्यं जनानाम् अग्रे पश्यामि तेजो निबिडतरकला यावळी लोभनीयं पीयूषप्लावितोऽहं तदनु तदुतरे दिव्यकैशोरवेशं तारुण्यारम्भरम्यं परमसुखरसास्वाद रोमाञ्चिताङ्गैः आवीतं नारदाद्यैः विलसदुपनिषत् सुन्दरीमण्डलैश्च बाहुद्वन्द्वेन रत्नोज्ज्वलवलयभृता शोणपाणिप्रवाळैनोपाता वेणुनाळीं प्रसृतनखमयूकाङ्गुलीं सङ्गशारां हृत्वा वक्त्रारविन्दे सुमधुरविकसद् रागम् उद्भाव्यमानैः शब्दब्रह्मामृतैः त्वं शिशिरितभुवनैः सिञ्च सिञ्च मे कर्णवीथी योगीन्द्राणां त्वदङ्गेष्वधिकसुमधुरं मुक्तिभाजां निवासो भक्तानां कामवर्षद्युतरुकिसलयं नाथ ते पादमूलं नित्यं चित्तस्थितं मे पवनपुरपते कृष्णा कारुण्य सिंधो Krishna karunya sindho hrutva niseshatapan pradishatu paramananda sandoha lakshmi ajñātvā te mahatvam yadiha nigaditam vishvanatha kshametah स्तोत्रं चैतत् सहस्रोत्तरम् अधिकतरं त्वत्प्रसादाय भूयात् द्वेधा नारायणीयं श्रुतिषु च जनुषा स्तुत्यता वर्णनेन स्फीतं लीलावतारैरिदमित कुरुताम् आयुरारोग्यसौख्यं जानकीकान्तस्मरणम् गोपिका जीवनस्मरणम् with the abundant blessings of Paramatma, I am having the saubhagyam to speak on Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana as a series, as a Saptaha Mahayajnam at our Venkateshwara Swami temple with the able guidance of Sri Dikshit ji and many volunteers who are serving the temple, and of course because of the presence of the Astikas such as you all. In the 7-day series, this is day 2. We have 5 more days to go, and all 5 days you have all promised to come. That's the greatness of you all. That said, there is a paddhati of calling this a Shravana Yajnam. See, after having completed the discourse, if somebody asks you, where have you been? You can say that I have performed a Yajnam. Because a Yajnam doesn't have to do only with a Vedika, with the ghee, the clarified butter that's offered, with the srak and sruva. There are 2 ladles, the longer one and the shorter one, with the pradosham that goes into it, the fuel that's put into it, the havis that is offered. All this is just not, that alone doesn't define a yajnam. A yajnam is also where the Purnahuti is based on jnanam. So, technically, if I have to illustrate how this set of lectures is Shravana Yajnam, you bend your head. The ear is the Vedika. And the lines of Bhagavatam and Narayaniyam and Yadavabhyudayam that you're listening to is the Havis. That's the fuel that you're putting to the Devata. And the enlightenment, the wisdom that dawns, I should make it a point to do it in a justful manner. If it dawns, that is the phalam of that yajnam. So this is in a way illustrative of the Shravana Yajnam that we all undergo. So in this Shravana Yajnam of Srimad Bhagavata Mahapuranam, in the Purva Charitram, what we have dealt till yesterday, has been the circumstances that led to Shuka Brahmam speak and narrate about Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit. We learnt that Parikshit, the son of Uttara and Abhimanyu, that Abhi, see in Sanskritam that Bhatha, you should drench the t-shirt of the person who's sitting in front of you. That's Sanskritam. So people who are seated in the last row are the only ones that can escape this dosham. Everybody else, they'll be drenched. In Shastriya Bhasha, it is called Amrita Varshini. Ananda Amruta Karshini, Amruta Varshini. When Dikshitar sang this, he was not cognizant of the fact that the phalam of Amrita Varshini Ragam will be felt by Seattle throughout the year. Srinaldana, but in installments. Srinaldanadi Samrakshini Shri Guru Guha Janani Chidrupini Sananda Hridaya Nilaye Sadaye Satya Suvrishti Hetave Tvam Santatam Chintaye Amruteshwari Salilam Varushaya Nanda Amruta Karshini. Father of Parikshit? Abhimanyu. Father of Abhimanyu? Arjuna. So, Parikshit was cursed to be killed, bitten by a snake called Takshaka. See, the boy who gave this curse also mentioned the name of the snake. He was so very specific that day. So he said, Takshaka will bite. So in this span of 7 days, when Parikshit knew that this will fructify, he wanted to understand how to spend the span of 7 days usefully, productively. See, not every curse gets phalam. Not every blessing gets its phalam. Then why was, see, he could have just brushed it away. No snake will bite me. Right? But why did he do that? Because a blessing or a curse will fructify only if we have tapobalam. We learn how to control our senses. We do recite mantram, we do mantra japam. That will charge us enough. So much so that the nature will understand the austerities that we have undertaken and shall ensure that what we utter from our mouth becomes the truth. Nature. We read of Paulo Coelho who says that in The Alchemist, right? If you aspire for something, the nature helps in you achieving it. So for that aspiration, we'll have to do that japam. That is why, let's say, in the last 100 years, we have had one of the great sages of Kanchi called Kanchi Paramacharya, who, if he says something, people generally, devotees say that would happen. Because you should work towards that. See, of course, as a primitive mortal who walks, somebody will say, please bless my children. I generally don't get into this blessing mode at all. Because the moment I get into the blessing mode, the next is buying an island. That is the next step. That's in the line. Right? So, why? Of course, then people do insist, please bless, please bless. So I say, good luck, best wishes. Because if we don't have tapobalam, what we say, the topsy-turvy may also happen. Then, people will always say, so, for something to fructify, we have to work towards it. Since it was uttered by that person who had undergone austerities, it would fructify. So, it was a curse. So Parikshit went and sat. That is when Shukabrahmam, the son of Vyasa, came on his own. And he said, let's spend this time usefully. And then he asked this question, Draunasya viplushtamidam madangam santana bijam kuru pandavanam jugopa kukshim gati attachakraha matuschameya sharanam gatayaha. Please tell me about that person who protected me while I was a fetus in the amniotic sac of my mother. I was floating in that fluid. He came and protected me then. Tell me about him. I told you, there is a reason. The answer was Krishna Avataram. He wanted to know about Krishna. But Krishna Avataram comes in the Dashama Skandam, 10th canto. First, second, third, all Varaha Avataram, Matsya Avataram, Kurma Avataram, Gajendra Moksham, Daksha Yagyam, Prithu Charitram, Prachetas marrying Pramlochana, then Gajendra Moksha, all this, then 10th canto, Krishna Avataram comes. So, in a way, he hasn't answered the question effectively. You always answer to the question, right? What is your name? 50 years before. There used to be a he was a barrister. His name was Rajagopala Iyengar, who lived in this small hamlet called Pundi. And from that place, he moved to Chennai, to Raja Annamalaipuram, 40 years back. And After that, they traveled. I'm not answering the question. Do you get that point? So by the time I come to the year I was produced, it would be 36 years since then. So answering the question is very important. Why didn't Shuka Brahmam do this? Isn't he trained in the principles of management? What was the reason? Because I'll give you probably this example may not be relatable to some of the youngsters and the ABCDs here. Around the 1950s and 60s, there was a mine in South Africa that would produce diamonds that would glitter of a certain color. It was called the blue jacker. Blue jacker diamonds were a rage. So they would procure those diamonds, and there was a paddhati where the girl's mother would make some nice diamond studs for the daughter. Either they would make it or they were asked to make it, whichever was the case. So there would be 7 stones of each. And then the goldsmith would be called home. So there was absolute mistrust on shops. So the goldsmith would come home and then he would fit the 7 stones together. So the blue jacker studs would be ready. They would be put into a small case that would hold the studs. And this box of the diamond studs would be put into a jeweler that exists no more. It's called Babu Jewelers. And that purse used to be kept in a side locker. You know, those large almirahs would have a locker. You open that locker, you would have another locker within the locker. Like Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha. Then the room is Mahaha. House is Janaha. Outside gate Tapaha. Then the neighborhood is Satyam. If the neighborhood is Satyam. So if at all I have to fetch those studs, I wouldn't get it directly. I have to go into the neighborhood, open the gate, open the main door, then get into the room, get into that room, and then open the almirah, open the locker, open the purse, open the box, and see the studs. Krishna Avataram is like blue jacker diamonds. Dashamaskandam is the case. The inner locker is the 9th canto. The external locker is the 8th canto. The almirah is the 7th canto. The room is the 6th canto. So Shuka Brahmam did not want to disclose the beauty and the effulgence emanating from the studs at one go. He wanted to keep the thrill coming, and then he declared it in the 10th canto. So this was the question posed by Parikshit, and Shuka Brahmam started narrating. Then he talks about how Ashwathama, Droni, who is Ravani? Very good, Indrajit. Very good, you are following the portions. Because I am always worried, in a series upanyasam such as this shouldn't become like an engineering semester. I don't know about the STEM system here. At least till I grew, I won't say about my batchmates. They were all far way superior in intelligence. But while I studied engineering, it used to happen that the first semester we used to have 6 courses. Maths 1, Physics 1, Chemistry 1, Thermodynamics and so on. After you remember and give those exams, the second semester you begin afresh. You don't have to remember the first semester. Right. So it shouldn't happen in Bhagavata Saptaham. Right. So this should be continuous, like Vedadhyanam. So in this due course, he talks about Ashwathama, the son of Dronacharya, who did not do justice to the Pandavas, especially to the sons of Pandavas born of Draupadi. And later he also ended up with a task of destroying the developing fetus in the womb of Uttara. That is when the Lord came as Vishnu Rata and went around the child and protected the child. The child hence born because of the Lord's grace was called Parikshit. We discussed all of that. Then we ended up also discussing the curse pronounced upon the gatekeepers of Sri Vaikuntham 2.0. Karya Vaikuntham, I said. Be very careful, because on the day 7 when we talk about Santana Gopala Charitram, roughly 7 o'clock it will come on Friday. Santana Gopala Charitram. So in Santana Gopala Charitram, this Karya Vaikuntham will come to our rescue. That is why I said you should keep remembering this. And if I don't, remind me. Sanātana Dharma will not guillotine you for questioning. It encourages questioning. Please do ask. So, in this Karya Vaikuntham, Sanakadi Deva Munis gave this Shapam to the gatekeepers. But it doesn't mean that Sanat Kumaras were completely right. They also had a mistake. Irrespective of what position the person holds, you need to respect that person. He's a gatekeeper. So what? That is why Andal, you have a beautiful Sannidhi for Andal here. Why does she deserve that? She was, of course, she's so pretty. There is only Saundaryam and Lavanyam that she oozes in the Sannidhi. But Andal as a little girl, we can't even imagine a 4-year-old girl singing Pasurams in chaste Tamil. Look at the wisdom that dawned upon her with no proper training. Her father just told what most fathers tell. But the way she has grasped, the way she has internalized and then spelled that out is something which is worth the amazement. She says, when I visit Krishna's house, I will respectfully seek the permission of the gatekeepers. Vayil kappane manikadavam taaltiravai nayaganai nindra nandagopanudaya koyil kappane kodithondrum thoranavayil kappane manikadavam taaltiravai ayar shirumiyaro umakku. We are respectfully asking you, please tell us. Tappa sollittena adadu? So Andal asks, please give me that opportunity. So she requests. Sanakadi Munis did not do that. They were at fault. Now, as a result of their curse, Diti and Kashyapa. How many of you know, how many of you have the name Aditi? Any Aditi here? Any Aditi? Oh, you're Aditi. Hello. Very nice name. Any of you have relatives or friends who are called Aditi? Many Aditis. Any of you have friends who are called Diti? Very good. Diti, not Aditi. Diti. You have? You have a friend. Very good. Now, many of them will have this doubt. Sir, can we call our girl Diti? Because Diti was the mother of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Remember, names will mean good. Just because the person who owns or has that name does have a bad demeanor, the name is not bad. Because Mahalakshmi is called both Aditi and Diti. Aditim cha ditim deeptam. Aditim cha ditim deeptam. Aditim chaditim deeptam vasudham vasudharinim namami kamalam kantam kshamam kshiroda sambhavam anugraha param buddhim anagham harivallabham. Diti is a beautiful name of Mahalakshmi. So names are not bad. Remember this. Just because Diti was the name of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu's mother, I won't keep. That way Chennai people can't keep the name Ram. Whether he's my Ram or Yen Ram. We have to think twice, right? So, name doesn't mean anything. It is the person's demeanor that will determine what position he or she holds in the society. So, Diti Devi, she had 2 children, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Amongst the 2, the younger one, Hiranyaksha, was the antisocial one. He was the one who was not conducive to Mother Nature. He was the one who was not very helpful to the flora and the fauna around him. Because of the deluge that was caused because of him polluting Mother Nature, the Lord came as Varaha, Udhritasi Varahena, Krishnena Shatabahuna, says Vedam. Now, there is this occasion where we are going to begin with the next part. Manu is the name of a supervisor who determines a certain time period. So there was a Manu called Swayambhuva Manu. Manu is a position. There was a Manu called Swayambhuva Manu. He had 3 daughters and 2 sons. Very conservative for that time period. It's not even half a dozen. And we keep watching cheaper by the dozen. So it's not even half a dozen. So in the girls, in the list of girls, he had Devahuti, Ahuti and Prasuti. Devahuti, while he wanted to get his daughter Devahuti married. So I'm sure a lot of them who have grown up here would have at least listened to this concept called arranged or assisted marriage. Have you? So it was arranged, later assisted. Now, Gandharva Vivaham is also supported in Sanātana Dharma. So that Sanātana Dharma is so open. We will talk about 8 vidhis in Rukmini's Vivaham. She says, Maya Rakshasena Vidhina. So there is one Rakshasa Vidhi also. So there was this person living during the times of Devahuti. His name was Kardama Prajapati. Kardama Prajapati was truly engaged in austerities. That is when the Lord appeared in his yoga drishti and said, you should help in prajotpatti. Don't get too much into this enlightenment now. First, have a family, come up with children. We need more people, aging population. So, now we should have more children. Now he said, who's the girl? Because Kardama had no time to go in search of the girl. He said, don't worry, the girl's father will come and seek your hand. Say yes, that's all. The Lord came on Garuda Vahanam and left. We believe that Vedatma Vihageshwaraha. Garuda is Vedic sound incarnate. Vedanta Deshika says, Netram Gayatra Muchehe. The eyes are Gayatri mantra. When he flaps, you listen to Samaveda. She has made a wonderful painting of this. I saw that in 2016 while she sent it on Messenger. She has made a beautiful painting of Vedanta Deshika's Garuda Panchashat Shlokam. So when Garuda, the celestial vehicle of the Lord, flaps, you listen to a sound. That sound was akin to Samavedam. See, interestingly, how many of you learn? I won't ask more questions. Now you can raise. Shastriya Sangeetam, Karnataka Sangeetam. Slowly they'll raise. They'll see if others are raising or not. So, we have 7 swaras. We have those 7 swaras, right? The first swaram is the mother of the next 6 swarams. Since that swaram gives rise to 6 other swarams, 6 is Shat. Jakaram is birth. Shat Jam, we call it, the first swaram. Shat Jam. The next 6 swarams comes. Shat Jam, Rishabham, Gandharam, Madhyamam, Dhaivatam, Panchamam, Nishadam. That's how we call. Sari Gama Pada Nisa Maya Malava Gaulam. Right? So every swaram in Sangeeta Shastram is akin to the sound of one animal. We have the chirping of the sound emanating from a peacock, which is similar to one swaram. One of a bull, Rishabham, of that swaram. Similarly, when Garuda's wings flap, you listen to Samavedam. That is why Shukabrahmam says, Nirikshitastasya yatha vasesha siddheshwara bhishtuta siddhamargaha Akarnayan patra rathendra pakshair ucharitam stomam udirna sama. Stomam udirna sama. So the Lord appeared and said, marry Devahuti. Now Swayambhuva Manu comes, saying that I have a daughter, please marry her, Kardama. I am going to read out a verse not from Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam was uttered by Shukabrahmam to the questions of Parikshit. 400 years back, roughly 400 years back, we had a great poet, a poet extraordinaire, probably a lesser known mathematician, in a small village called Melpattur. His name was Narayana Bhattattiri. he came up with the essence of Bhagavatam in the form of a 1036-versed poem called Narayaniyam. This work is special just not to bring the essence of Bhagavatam, but it was developed as a panacea to body problems. So he says, Samanuhu shatarupaya mahishya gunavatya sutaya cha devahutya bhavadirita naradopadishtaha samagat kardamamagatif pratiksham. So, when Swayambhuva Manu said, Kardama, please marry my girl, Swayambhuva Manu agreed and they married. They had many daughters. Beti bachao, beti padhao to ho hi gaya. Uske baad kya hai? Devahuti ko chahiye tha ek beta. She wanted one beta. But husband was in austerities and then she said we should have a son. I don't know how they determined that XY allele, but still. So that is when Kardama Prajapati said, we will be very lucky that we shall have the Lord's Amshavataram. There is a difference when the Lord comes on his own. It is called Purnavataram. Tatte Pratyagra Dhara Dhara Lalitakala Yavali Kerikaram Lavanya Syaikasaram Sukriti Janadrisham Purna Punyavataram Lakshmi Nishankalila Nilayanam Amritasyanda Sandoha Mantaha Sinchat Sanchintakanam Vapuranu Kalaye Marutagara Natha. When the Lord chooses to be Krishna and Rama, it is called Purnavataram. He is him. Whereas he chooses one of the Jivatmas like us to inject one of his many auspicious qualities and send. They are called Amshavataram, partial manifestation. For example, Parashurama, Balarama, Kapila, Vyasa, they are all Amshavatarams. That is why you will find Amshavatarams being won over by Purnavataram. When Parashurama meets Rama, easily Rama wins over Parashurama. Ghana kupita bhrugurama garvaharamita saketam bhavayami raghuramam kratuhara shikari kantuka vihrutyunmuka jagadiruntu dajita haridanti danta danturonta dashavadana damana kushala dashashata bhujamuka nrupati kularudira jara bharita prututara tatakatarpida pitraka bhrugupati sugati vihati karanata parudishu parigha, says Vedanta Deshika. So this partial manifestation is overrun or overruled by a complete avataram. That is why every decision of Balarama will be overruled by Krishna. Nothing of Balarama's wish happened. So here we have a partial manifestation. Jnana vijnana yogena karmana muddharan jataha hiranyakeshaha padmakshaha Padmamudra padam bujaha yesha manavite garbham pravishta ketabha mardinaha avidya samshaya granthim chitvagam vicharishyati. So, as a result of this prediction by the husband Kardama Prajapati that the Lord shall partially manifest in your womb, Kapilacharya was born. Kapil. Who was Kapil? World Cup. Maharshi Kapilacharya Kritagnaha Medhini Patihi. Kapilacharya is the same Kapila whom we come across in Ramayana Balakandam. Vishwamitra, while taking Rama on an industrial training, internship for 6 days, tells Rama about the history of one of his ancestors called Sagara Chakravarti who performed Ashwamedham, and in the due course says that the sacrificial horse was abducted by Indra. Naturally, in those days many FIRs against him. So Indra would abduct the horse, and the horse was tied in the vicinity of an ashramam of a rishi called Kapila. So the sons of Sagara Chakravarti presume that it is Kapilacharya who abducted. Kapila opened his eyes, they turned into ashes. One very probable location where this must have happened is towards the end of Vangadesham. Vangam is Bangam, which is Bengal. So that's where Ganga meets the ocean. There is one place where Kapilashramam is there. That is why Bhagirath, one of his later successors, comes and requests Ganga to help in the emancipation of these 60,000 sons. Ashes. But of course, there is another viewpoint by one of the sages of Kanchi called Paramacharya, who used to state that Kapila lived in a forest called Kapilaranyam, and that Kapilaranyam is the current day California. He used to state, the way he used to substantiate that is, the horse was tied, so there is a horse island, and the ashes were found, it is the ash island. He used to state. How much of this is corroborated by evidence is a different point for researchers, one of you or many of you, to take it upon yourself. But this Kapilacharya is the same one who's mentioned here, who was born to Kardama Prajapati and Devahuti. The mother has a few doubts. She goes and asks her enlightened husband, "Sir, can you please clear my doubts?" The husband says, "I'm going on Vanaprastham. There is no time for clearing your doubts now. You've produced a son who's an encyclopedia in himself. So you go and ask him." So she went and asked, "What should I do, my dear son, to make my life purposeful?" First of all, the question was too late. But the boy manages to answer convincingly. He says, "Matiriha gunasakta bandhakritveshvasakta Tvamakritaruparundhe bhakti yogastu saktim mahada gunamalabhya bhaktire vatra sadhya kapilatanuriritvam devahutye nyagadihi." To Devahuti, he said, first of all, try detaching yourself from those materials which cause problems to you, mother. That is why there was a great poet called Thiruvalluvar. Have you heard of him? He is found in most of the local buses in Chennai. He'll have a huge beard like Dumbledore. So he'll be seated. He gave a beautiful compendium of 1330 couplets in chaste Tamil called as Thirukural La. There is a difference between La and La. This is Kural. So he says, "Yadanin yadalin ningiyan nodal adanin adanin ilan." This is a Kural. What he says is, if you want to avoid problem from certain possessions or certain people, stop being a recipient of the pleasures those things or those people give. Simple aphorism. See, have you heard of, now let my Upanyasam begin. Have you heard of urad dal? ಉಳುತ್ತಂಬರ್ಪು ತಾನೆ, ಉದ್ದಿನ ಬೇಳೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಲ್ವೇ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ. ತೆಲುಗುలో ఏం చెప్తారు ఉరద్ దాల్? Venapappu. So this urad dal is soaked, and then for making all your dosa batter, idli batter, for bada, you have to put this. But after making this into a fine paste, you have to keep it in the fridge. Says Yogambal Sundar. She is a great cook in India. So then you will have to keep oil. I don't know what oil you will all use. You have to then put that bada and then fry it in oil. When it pops up, you have to hit it on its head. Push it again into that oil. It should deep fry, it should happen. And then put it into buttermilk. Then after that you should take it out and then take some yogurt, put little coconut, then little green chilies, make it into a fine paste and put that, and pattappa generally put some bundi on the top. What is this called? Tayir vada. Majjige bade. Dahi balla. Not balla. When I used to be in Pilan, dahi balla. Whatever. Very tasty it will be. Try this. But Ayurveda Shastram says if you consume this over a period of time, your buddhi will become mandam. That is why I gave the recipe. That is why in those days in Veda Patashalas, before the Pariksha, 1 month, the student will never be given anything with urad dal. It may be good for the health. See, there's a difference between good for the body and what is good for your memory. I'll give you one incident. Most of you who would have heard of my lecture would know. There was a great poet called Sri Harsha. Sri Harsha gave us a beautiful work. Can anyone say what was Harsha's work? Huh? Naishadhiya Charitram. Sri Harsham is Naishadham. Very good. Naishadham is a beautiful work in Sanskritam. Nipiyasya kshitirakshinam katha tathadriyante na budhasudhamapi nalasitaschatrita kirti mandalaha sarashirasin mahasam mahojjvalaha. Beautiful work. Harsha's Naishadham is a piece extraordinary. You should read Naishadham. He also gave one beautiful work on Advaitam. Any guess? Huh? Who said that? Wonderful. Khandana Khanda Khadyam, it is called. Beautiful work. Veritas. Okay. Now this Sri Harsha is believed to have belonged to Kashmir. He found no job in Kashmir. He wanted to come and seek one job in Kashi, Varanasi. So he travelled many places and finally reached Kashi. And Kashi also, board said no, currently jobs are not available. So he did not know what to do. So he went and prayed to Saraswati Devi because he was blessed with Chintamani Mantram. There is one Navavaranam, those of you who are learning music, you will know, there is one Navavaranam by Uttukkadu Venkatakavi. Chintamani Grihamadhye, he says. So he recited Chintamani Mantram. Chintamani Mantram is generally granted by Saraswati Devi for good memory. We should all pray for good memory. That is our problem, right? We all listen to wonderful things. It doesn't stay in our brain. That is the problem. Nanna கேட்குறேன் சார் புரியுது கேட்கும்போது புரியுது கேட்ட உடனே போச்சு வாலட்டைல் நாஃப்தலின் பால் தான். So he went and started meditating by the banks of river Ganga. While he was meditating, two local women, they came and started fighting. There was some fight between the two. They started fighting, but in the local language. In that part of Varanasi, there is a language called Avadhi. You have many languages, Avadhi, Brajbhasha, Bhojpuri, Maithili, Prakritam. So they started fighting in Avadhi. In Tamil, there is a different meaning for Avadhi. My lecture. So they started fighting. Harsha did not know Avadhi. He knew only Sanskritam, pure 916 Sanskritam only he knew. But look, these women started fighting so much that even Barkadat came there to report. Ground reporting, two women fighting. So then these women were summoned to the court of the Raja in Varanasi. Varanasi Raja asked what happened. Then each of these women gave their own versions, like Rashomon, Japanese movie. They gave their own version. So finally, the Raja wanted to know in an unbiased manner what had happened. So he asked who was there. They checked the CCTV footage. They found Harsha. They called Harsha. They say something. Harsha said, see, I don't know what they fought. They were fighting. I don't know the local language. Then the king lost hope. But Harsha said, I can tell you what they spoke. I don't know the meaning. The moment I listen to something, it sticks to my brain. He repeated what they said. He didn't know what he was saying. It's like our shlokas. So similarly, he started telling. And there was a judgment given, but the king was very interested looking upon Harsha's memory skills and the ability to transform his thoughts into beautiful verses. So he appointed Harsha as one of the poets of that particular dynasty, that kingdom. He was given all the amenities to live. But Harsha's way of describing things was way beyond the understanding of a primitive mortal, a mundane individual. So the king thought, this man should come notches down to reach the commoner's ears. So he said, take a sabbatical. Take a break. You go to some resort here, there. Take this Alaska cruise. Go. Meditate and slowly come with simple poetry. This man took 1 month off. After 1 month, this king could not sustain without that learned man. He said, soldiers, go and spot him. I can't live without that man's intellect. Bring him here. Harsha took this task upon himself very seriously. He said, let me work towards making my memory slightly mandam. And he started having. Now the soldier spotted him. He said, Harsha, you're here. Kya kar rahe hain aap? Bataiye to sahi. What are you doing? He has to say, I'm eating badas. He says, Ashesha, Shemushi, Musha, Masha, Shisheve. I am eating the vada made from the remaining urad dal fried in the oil. He could have said that I am eating vadas. So even after eating the vadas, it made no change in him. But it will make change in us. So after consuming these vadas giving us pleasure. See that crisp layer at the top and the sponge-like nature in the inner will give us pleasure. But when our lipid profile tests come, like Yajur Vedam has two, Shukla and Krishna. Cholesterol has two, good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. See, generally if I speak like this itself, people say, Kolpu dane avarku. See, so I enjoy the vada, but the effect of it is not good. So what is the way to detach myself from the effect of consuming the vadas? Is to stop consuming the vadas. If I should not reap the bad effects of the vada, I should not reap the good effects of it also. Says Thiruvalluvar, which Kapila says, Matiriha gunasakta. Sutyacha? Bandha kritveshva sakta. That is Upanyasam. See, if it is just like this, Matiriha gunasakta. Mati, if I tell word by word meaning, then it is a classroom lecture. I should go start somewhere. Yettishayu mulannodi ilaittu vilum kagampol. Matirisha gunasakta. Then you should forget where we started. Then I will bring you back. Matiriha gunasakta. Bandha kritveshva sakta. Twamat krita parundhe. Bhakti yogastu saktim. Then the mother said, very good point, my dear son. I want to understand, where does the Jivatma go? Then the son explains there are two ways for the Jivatma to exit the body. So there is a Hridaya Kamalam, inverted lotus, above the diaphragm. Inside that is the Jivatma with the Paramatma. When the right opportune moment comes, the 5 senses will start dysfunctioning at various levels. Then they will all go to the Manas. So in a natural death, you won't have a person who has everything sound in the last minute. Slowly things will start failing. This is after all a machine. It will have its own wear and tear. Then it will remind the Jivatma, time for you to exit, get ready. Then there is something called Tristhuna Kshobanam, 3 rods behind. Those of you who practice Shri Vidya, it's called Kundalini. It will come there. So all this rod will have various connecting points. It is called Chakram. Agnya, Chakranthala, Rasta, Rudra, Granthi, Vibhedini, Manipurabja, Nilaya. All this comes in Lalita Sahasranamam. Correct? Manipuraka Chakram, Agnya Chakram. And then around that Tristhunam will be a snake. That is why it's called Kundalini. Then there are 101 nadis, tells Upanishad. The 101st nadi is called Sushumna. So the Jivatma has to exit through the Sushumna and it may have to go through the Brahmarandram. Only if it exits through the 101st nadi, there won't be a rebirth. If it exits through the first 100, Punarapi Jananam, Washington State, next Montana, then Utah, then we have to go to Missouri, Mississippi, Ukraine, We don't know where the Jivatma will go. Now you may say, sir, will it travel so many miles? It will travel. It will get propelled. It doesn't need fuel. It doesn't have to buy fuel from another country and then get it refined and then take it back. It can go anyway. So this Jivatma exits. If it exits through the 101st Nadi, it will take the northern path. It is called Archiradi Margam, the path of light. If it exits through one of the first 100, it will take the southern path, Dhumadi Margam. It is called the southern path. So for north and south, that is why loss is southwards, right? That's why we say it is going southwards. Then we ask, because Shivam in Sanskrit means auspicious. Shiva means auspicious. What is his Vahanam? Bull. That is why we say it is very bullish. Jambavan was very old, bearish. Prakriti gata guna udyaihi najyate purushoyam yaditu sajati tasyam tadgunastam bhajeran. Mata, while you are housed in this material body, either practice bhakti yogam or sharanagati, the boy recommends. Then the mother says, please tell me how the Jivatma enters the body. You've spoken about the exit. Then Kapilacharya gives all of this. He says that the sperm is found in the man, the ovum in the female. This sperm fertilizes the ovum. There is a bubble at the end of 5 nights. I'm just translating the shlokas. Then it develops to the size of a plum in the first 10 days. It becomes a flesh ball and the head is formed towards the end of 1 month. Then hands, feet and limbs develop towards the end of 2 months. The nails and the hair are found from the 3rd month. The other ingredients like blood, flesh, all of it gets mature in the end of 4 months. The hunger and the thirst is felt at the end of 5th month. The fetus now bends itself and sees the Lord in the 6th month. That is why Alvar says, Karuvarangathul kidanden kaitoluden kanden. I saw the Lord. So as the child bends, it also becomes receptive to external audio, sound. That is why in the 3rd month, Pumsavanam is performed, and the end of 7th and 8th month, Seemantonayanam is performed. See, there were ways in those days, the ancient society, to tell that this lady is married or not, this man is married or not. For the man, it was through the attire, through the janeyu. For the lady, an unmarried woman will always comb her hair backwards. While she is married, pregnant for the first time, and at the end of 7 months, the samskara is performed, using the sharp protrusion of a porcupine, the split is made in the hair. The process of splitting in Sanskritam is called Seemantam. Seemantam means split. You divide. That is why Vedanta Deshika, the great poet, he uses this very smartly. He says, between Bharata Desham and Lanka, there was only oceanic waters. Rama constructed a bridge. So it was as if he was performing Seemantam to the ocean. Setu Patha Seema Seemantita Samudra. So then the Seemantam is performed. During the Seemantam, the Veena is played. How many of you remember your Seemantams where Veena was played? 1, 2, so 3. So Veena is played. In that Veena, a Vedic mantra is tuned to that particular Veena sound. But if you tune Vedas to the Vedic sound, Veena, it may not be extremely melodious. It will just go between 2-3 octaves. So later people came up with playing a ragam during Seemantam. Can anyone tell what is that ragam? Shri. Very good. Shri is played. Ragam Shri. Why? Why other ragams cannot be said? Sir, Kamboji will get upset, sir. Why? Because Shri in Sanskritam means Vedam. Sahi Shrir Amrita Satam. Shri means Vedam. So instead of Vedam, we use Ragam Shri. So a child can be cognizant of the Vedic sound in the 7th, 8th month. Then the child is born. As the child is born, it is born with Purna Brahma Jnanam. It has seen the Lord in the Garbham. It remembers the Lord's beautiful form. Unmila Dantapankti Spuratarunatara Chaya Bimbadarantaha. It is so happy looking at the Lord's divine form. As it is born and the scalp of the child is exposed to the external air for the first time, the component in the air called as shatam has the ability to touch the sensitive scalp region of the child and make it forget what all it has remembered. It touches and the child forgets. When the child forgets, it feels very bad for forgetting. See, we may come across instances, we meet the opposite person, we have been wanting to tell something, we go near the person, we are just about to open the mouth and we forget. You'll feel like banging yourself on the wall. Sir, it is here, sir. It is here. What is the use? It has to come out. Bahar to aana chahiye. So, the child is unable to express his or her disappointment over this memory loss. The child cries and we are happy. There was only one exception to this generic principle. A child who was able to kick that shatam and say, I won't forget. He was called Shatakopa. So, all this is mentioned by Kapilacharya. The mother says, at least now I have received the great jnanam from my son. Thank you, my dear son. And she traces her path to Vaikuntham. Pitrusuraganyaji dharmiko yo grihastha sachanipadati kale dakshina dhopagami mainihitamakamam karmadukat pathartam kapilatanurititvam devahutye nyagadihi. He says, now as we deal with Swayambhuva daughter, what was her name? Devahuti. What was her husband's name? What were their son's name? Kapilacharya. Yeah, you should remember. Now, this Swayambhuva had a son called Uttanapada. Uttanapada had 2 wives. In those days, it will begin, the narration itself will begin 2 wives, 3 wives, 4 wives. I don't know why they married so many times, but somehow they married. Now, the first wife was called Suniti. Suniti had a son called Dhruva. Second wife was Suruchi. Suruchi had a son called Uttama. Now, this Uttanapada, one day, he wanted to appreciate, pat, pamper his son Uttama, second son Uttama. He said, Uttama, come here. Uttama went and sat on the lap of his father. The father started caressing him. He started hugging him, cuddling up to him. Uttanapada nripater manunandanasya jaya babhuva suruchir nitarama bhishta anya sunitiriti bharturanadrutasa tvameva nityamagati sharanam matagata bhut. As he was caressing the son, there was another boy looking from behind of the pillar and checking, well, I could also be the recipient of a similar love from my father, and he went running and sat on the father's other lap. Simple incident. As this boy went and sat on the lap of his father while expecting that the father shall shower the same amount of love, he was held by his neck and pulled by a lady. That was his stepmother called Suruchi. Navatsanrupater dhishnyam bhavanarodhumarhati nagrihito maya yatvam kukshavapi nripatmajaha. Are you born of me to receive the same love that my son Uttama gets? You are born of that wretched Suniti. You are not my son. When you are not my son, you shall not be entitled for the same love what Uttama gets. Do you get that? She's telling this to a 4-year-old son, boy. Had she told this to my daughter, should have washed him away. But this boy took it to heart. Those words of Suruchi, how sharp were they? Don't think that physical assault causes damage. It does. But what causes a bigger damage, collateral damage, is a verbal assault. We always feel if a person, at times we get cut on, when we cut vegetables, we get cut. Over a period of time, we won't even know which hand, which finger. But words stay for years together. Thiruvalluvar says, Tiyinal shuttappun ullarum, Arade navinal shutta vadu. Words can really be very, very sharp. This boy, when he was told of the words by his stepmother, how sharp were they? Tyagaraja says, take a trident, a trishulam made in cast iron, heavy cast iron trishulam. Put that into blazing fire. Let the blazing fire heat it up. You should see a layer of reddish, orangish tinge, hue coming over the trident. To that heated trident, take it and insert it into one's ears. It will cause that pain, right? So were her words, it seems. Sa patni mata yo suruchi che karna shulamaina matanu. Karna shulamaina matanu ante varu chappina shabdalu anni anta harsh ga unnai. It was so harsh. This boy couldn't take it. He went and told his mother, in the presence of my father, that lady said this. He didn't stop her. I want to receive my father's love, mother. Where can I go? She said, I'm helpless. What can I guide you? I am helpless. That man doesn't respect me. What can I guide you? I can't assure you of the similar love that you are yearning from your father. But mother, why am I suffering? He doesn't like you, that should go with you. Why should I suffer? Anya janma kritaif punyai suruchyam suruchir nripaha bharyeti prochyate chanya madvidha punyavarjita. Maybe Suruchi has done a lot of punyam, Dhruva. That is why her punyam has passed on to her son. I have not done punyam. So this papam is troubling you, my dear son. That is when Dhruva said, what should I do? I can tell you, go seek Mahajano yena gatissa panthaha. Go seek the advice of elderly people. While he gets out of the kingdom, there is guidance available. Who guided him? Again, there is a small difference of opinion. Not difference of opinion. In the narration style, Shuka Brahmam says, Narada guided the boy. But Shuka Brahmam's grandfather, who was Shuka's grandfather? Yaro sir, yedo tatavar par. Parashara in Vishnu Purana says the Saptarishis guided him. Now, big debate whether Saptarishis or Narada. I would say combination of both. 7 + 1, 8 of them guided. Why? Because their answer was unanimous. Marichi said, Anaradhita govindair naraisthanam nripatmaja nahi samprapyate sreshtham tasmad aradhyam achyutam. Go meditate on achyuta. Chuta in Sanskritam means to betray. Achyuta means the one who doesn't betray. That is why Rukmini says, Shrutva gunan bhuvana sundara shrinvatante nirvishya karna vivaraihi haratongatapam rupam drisham drishimatam akhilarthalabam tvai. Achyuta, I have already leaked the answer. Tvai achyuta avishati chittamapatrapam me. Tondaradi Pudiyalvar Bhaktangri Renu tells, Pachai mamalaye polmeni pavalavai kamala chenkan அச்சுதாவமரரே ஆயர்த்தம் கொழுந்தே என்னும் இச்சுவை தவிர யான் போய் இந்திரலோகம் ஆளும் அச்சுவை பெரினும் வேண்டே நரங்கமா நகரருளானே. அச்சுதா. Marichi says, pray to Achyuta. Angiras tells, praise to Govinda. Pulastya says, pray to Parabrahmam. Pulaha says, pray to Vishnu. So the answer was unanimous. Then Narada said, so you have to go to the forest and do tapas. He is not Ashutoshi. Lord Shiva, Mahadeva is addressed as Ashutoshi. Drape andhasaspate daridran neelalohita, says Sri Rudram. Nama astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya Mahadevaya Trayambakaya Tripurantakaya Trikagnikalaya Kalagni Rudraya Mrityunjayaya Sadashivaya Shriman Mahadevaya Namaha. First Vedam tells Lord Shiva, cool down. He is very angry looking at us. So we say, oh, the one who Namo Astu Dhanvaneva Bahubhyamutate Namaha Yata Ishu Shivatama Shivam Babhuvate Dhanuhu Shiva Sharavya Tavataya No Rudramridaya. Oh Rudra, get cool. Cool down. Cool. Then we ask Lord Shiva. Shiva is Ashutoshi. Ashutoshi means one who gets instantly happy. If you ask Shiva, you'll be blessed. Many Astikas in Maharashtra will be called by this name if you see Ashutosh. Ashutoshi. Vishnu is not that Ashutoshi. He'll try and test you. So, you have to work a lot. Dhruva said Narada. But this 4-year-old boy, he said, I have the resolve to work. See, 4-year-old boy. I will work. He goes and starts meditating on the Lord. First of all, before that he asked Narada, see, you're telling I will see Vishnu. How will Vishnu look? You have to show me the profile photo. Srivatsankam ghanashyamam purusham vanamalinam. When he appears, you will see that there is no one who can match his beauty. He is him. Shankachakra gada padmairabhivyaktam chaturbhujam kiritinam kundalinam keyura valayanvitam kaustubha bharanagrivam pita kausheya vasasam. So this boy went, that is when Bhagavatam says he had kapitha and badara juice, that fruit juice. First he went on keto, then vegan, no milk. Then he started that smoothie he used to take. There should be only omega in that. No carbs, low on carbs. Then he took that goat's food. What is that? Quinoa. Quinoa he took. அது தெரியாது உங்களுக்கு சவுத் அமெரிக்கால ஆடு தான் சாப்பிடுமா அதை I have heard, I don't know. Now, then that brown rice, black rice. There you should not be racist. You should take all rice, black, brown, everything. Then all this he took. Then see, if you take too much, then that is not fasting, that's feasting. In those days, you cannot commit. See, Shastram doesn't allow suicide. As per sanātana dharma, that is why Sita in Sundarakandam, she wanted to commit, Hanuman stops. Hanuman wanted to commit, he himself stops. All this comes in Sundarakandam, you will get to know. So you have to let the Jivatma sustain in the body. Naturally it should exit. So for the Jivatma to live in the body, it needs nutrients. That is why in austerities as well, in tapas also, there is one rule where you can consume dry leaves. Parnam is leaf. But Parvati was so much in love with Lord Shiva, head over heels in love with Shiva. When her mother Manorama, she stopped, Mena. She said, don't go. Why do you want to do? Parvati, mat jaona. Don't go. Don't go. Uma. In Sanskritam, Uma. Don't go. So she was called Uma. Umam Haimavatim, says Upanishad. Then while she meditated on Lord Shiva, Kalidasa tells in Kumara Sambhavam, she was so sincere, she didn't even consume those dry leaves which could have been consumed. Since she didn't consume Parna, she is called Aparna. So, this boy consumed dry leaves. After that, he stopped. Every ninth day, he drank water. Then, after that, diet changed. He used to breathe air. That's all. Nothing more. He stood on one foot, motionless. All this happened. Finally, the Lord appeared. When the Lord appeared, he didn't have to say, in those days, मैं प्रसन्न हूँ, आँखें खोलो. No. मैं काल हूँ. You remember that मैं काल हूँ? महाभारत कथा. That काल चक्र, मैं काल हूँ. All this won't happen. See, the Lord doesn't have to announce. He doesn't have to blow. When He is there, you will feel. He makes His presence felt with His presence. So the boy opened his eyes. When he looked at the Lord, see, this is called Varnanam. Keshadi Pada Varnanam. Vedanta Deshika says, Padam Bhojam Sprishati Bhajate Ranganathasya Jangam Urudvandve Vilagati Shanair Udhvam Abhyeti Nabhim Vakshasyaste Valati Bhujayor Mamikeyam Manisha Vaktrabhikyam Pibati Vasate Vasanam Mauli Bande. If you look at his curly tresses, you will fall in love with how curly they are and effervescent and glistening they are. If you move your eye glances to his nose, it will resemble the flower of a sesame. If you look at his eyes, it will look as if the petals of a newly blossomed lotus were fixed on a beautiful moon-like countenance. If you look at his forehead, urdhvam, it will have that urdhva pundram. If you look at his teeth, unmila danta panktihi. See, one of my friends said he went along with his friend. My friend went along with his friend to a party. As they were both eating food on that Govardhanam buffet. Govardhanam Giridhara. The plate is 1 kg, food is half kg. So, while they were eating, one lady opposite, a very pretty lady, she smiled at my friend's friend. He was extremely elated with his gesture of that pretty lady. She continued smiling, so did he. She approached him and said, let's meet up. This man said, oh, this is quite quick. Then he said, how do we meet up? Why? This lady said, I'm a dentist. Your teeth needs correction. So the Lord's teeth isn't like that. Unmila danta pankti spuratarunatara chaya bimbadarantaha. It will look as if the stars that are perennially glistening are fit in the upper and the lower jaw. Unmila danta pankti spuratarunatara chaya bimbadarantaha. So beautiful was he. He found no words. See, okay, let me give you a very mundane example. When something is given to you for taste, even before consuming it, if you say, pramadam, that means you're afraid of the person who has made it. Because that person can't take criticism at face. So the next level is when the food is just touched the tip of your tongue and you say it's excellent. There's something wrong, terribly wrong with the food. But the real appreciation comes when you chew. Excellent. That is why Narada took little time to say who is the man who has 16 qualities, because he wanted to relish Ramanamam. Shri Ramani Nama Memi Ruchira. O Ramani Nama Milta Ruchira. Shri Ramam Ni Nama Memi Ruchira. This boy, looking at the blemishless form of the Lord, who was all present in all glory in front of his eyes, was falling short of words and couldn't construct sentences that could be put together to describe the Lord. As this description came to his tip of his tongue, he couldn't speak. He was choked. He could see the fatherly love coming through the eyes of the Lord. He was choked. That is when the Lord took that shankham out and touched that boy's cheeks. That choking impediment went away and the boy started speaking laurels of the Lord. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham vande paramananda madhavam. Mukam karoti vachalam. Even a dumb can speak if the Lord wishes him that he should speak. Mukam karoti vachalam, with that shankasparsham. See, generally it's a known fact, if I have to become instantly wealthy, a millionaire or billionaire, there are ways. Either I go to Las Vegas, or at least if I'm in Bharatadesham, I'll buy a ticket to Kerala. You know, lottery is very famous in Kerala. So I can go buy. So there are ways, whether they work or not, there are ways for you to become super rich in a day. But how can you do with knowledge? Sir, I want all the 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam inside my brain. It won't work. We don't have a USB port. It has to be worked. But the unthinkable happened with Dhruva. When the Lord touched, the boy could speak. Then that is when you have Dhruva Stuti, and the Lord embraced Dhruva and said, I'll shower all the love on you. And he blessed Dhruva. One interesting point in Dhruva Charitram is, he blessed Dhruva. He said, from now on, incessant memory shall be named after you. That is why Smriti, remembrance, memory in Shastram is called Dhruva Smriti. Bhagavad Ramanuja uses this. Tailadharavat avichinna smriti santana rupa Dhruva Smritihi. Dhruva Smriti, continuous memory. It is called because of that boy's name. Now, in that lineage of Dhruva came a Chakravarti called a Vena. Vena was one of the notorious monarchs of those days. People didn't desire him. He was killed as a result. And thereby his generation continued. In that generation came a boy who had Rekha. What Rekha? Rekha means the palmistry Rekha. So this Rekha of Shankam and Chakram. So he was a partial manifestation of the Lord. He was called by a name Pruthu. This Pruthu Chakravarti, who wanted to administer his kingdom well, was falling short of resources. He requested Mother Earth, who came in the form of a cow, and then he could get the best out of it. The milk products, A2, grass-fed, vegetarian cheese, everything she could get. And all this was blessed. Now, this Pruthu Chakravarti was a very able king. In that lineage came a beautiful girl. She was called as a descendant of Prithu. So she was called Pritha. Pritha's other name was Kunti. Pritha was married to Pandu, and the sons she produced henceforth, Yudhishthira, Bhima and Arjuna, were called by the mother's name. So it was not all patriarchal. It was matriarchal too. The sons were called because of the mother. They were called Partha. Of the three, Arjuna became extremely famous, so he was called Partha for a reason. Krishna became a Sarathi to Partha, so he is called Partha Sarathi. What did Partha Sarathi do? He became Pachu. So Prithu, Pritha, Partha, Partha Sarathi, and Bhumi was hence called Prithvi. Now, as Pruthu Charitram comes to a close, there is one small incident mentioned of a lady who married 10 men at one go. Sir, why is all this coming, sir? Isn't this polyandry? When polygamy comes, we are all very cool about it. When polyandry comes, how come? They somehow managed. Now, this lady married 10 men. She was called Padmalochana or Pramlochana. She married 10 men. Sir, why does this serve any purpose of you telling all this? Why does it come? Very helpful. Where? In Sri Mahabharatam, in Adi Parva, Draupadi comes from the sacrificial fire. And her father had desired. Did I tell you this yesterday? Her father had desired that she should marry Arjuna, but Arjuna was believed to have been dead in the huge fire that struck the palace, Lakshagriha. So everybody tried, it didn't work. Karna wanted to try, but she said, no, I won't marry you. Then after that, when nobody was able to lift and do the task given to them, finally, the Brahmin Pandits were there. Upon Yudhishthira's insistence, Arjuna came forward and said, I will try. So it was a task, as if you have to take that bow, there will be 5 arrows, you have to use that arrow, aim at the eye of the fish attached to the top and aim at it, looking at the reflection of it in the below waters, and then strike. If they do it today, I don't know how many of them will even get married. We all have to sit next to Ganapati. Arjuna somehow managed to crack this code, and he was given in marriage to Draupadi. Draupadi knew this is Arjuna, because Krishna was mentioning this to Balarama and Draupadi. This could be Arjuna. Now as they go home, this Arjuna could have simply made a simple conversation. He thought of getting extremely poetic. He said, here I fetched the alms like how I do it every day. Bhiksha I've brought. He was grinning ear to ear while saying this. Without being cognizant, the mother literally thought it was Bhogya Vastu, and she was a social media person. She said, share. Share. When they turned back, they saw, then she reprimanded her son. You shouldn't have called a lady in flesh and blood as a possession. That is wrong. Then she said, okay, leave what I've said, just leave it. But Yudhishthira, rule master, he will keep the indicator on and show his hand also. That kind of a rule master. He said, we cannot pass the commandment issued by the mother. If Amma says something, you have to follow. Tamil Nadu people believe this very strictly at one point in time. So, he said, not possible, we have to marry. Then she said, this is not possible. One lady marrying 5 men at one go. How is this possible? Because Mantram says you have to marry Soma, Gandharva, Agni, and then that boy, whoever is a boy, Suresh, Kotti, Satish, Kalyan. Now, how do we do this process? That is when Yudhishthira tells that she is born of fire, fire won't harm her, let her get inside the fire and come out every time and then let her marry. 5 people married. Now, Drupada, upon understanding this treatment meted to his daughter, he comes fighting. He says, how will this happen? Then Krishna comes and says, see, this is something we have unheard of in the recent times, but it has happened in the past. Pramlochana married 10 prachetas. So this Bhagavatam story comes to rescue in Mahabharatam Adi Parva. Both are interlinked. Why will the snitch open at the close? Why? Why will the snitch? Because? Why will the snitch open? But how will it recognize the flesh memory? The answer is found in which book? Big one. Book 7's answer is found in Sorcerer's Stone book, right? Similarly, Bhagavatam's answer is found in Mahabharata. Okay? See, Rowling had great bhakti towards Shukabrahmam and Vyasa. Athava tava ko doshaha kimva kupyamyaham tava mamaiva dosho nitaram yena hamam jitendriyaha. So, this Padmalochana's example fits the bill when Krishna has to give precedence. Even in judiciary, I don't know about, I barely know anything about the judicial system in the US. In Bharata Desham, when a case is heard, after hearing to both sides, the judgment will be issued at that point in time. The judge is given the right to point out a precedence. They will say a similar case was heard in the Patiala court in 1973 by a 2-judge bench of Mishra and Mehra. They gave this judgment. Why are they quoting them? Because those people are dead. You can't go and question them. So I don't know whether they would have gone to Vaikuntham. That is a different thing. Now, We are going to go. See, these are all lesser known charitrams. Day 2 of Bhagavatam is very interesting. Lesser known charitrams. Because when avatarams come, we are all very, very aware. Even if Shukabrahmam has doubts, he can consult with us. I'll tell. We are very good. But here, lesser known charitrams. So, there was 2 sons of Swayambhuva Manu and how many daughters? Very good. All of you are very vigilant. Sons of Swayambhuva Manu, one son we have discussed. Uttanapada. The other son was called Priyavrata. This Priyavrata's succession, there was a king called Nabhi. Nabhi, along with his wife Meru Devi, conducted a yagam called as Pravargyam. And because as a result of it, the Lord's partial manifestation was born. Amshavataram. We have discussed many Amshavatarams. Kapilacharya, Vyasacharya, Prithu. Now a son was born. He was called Rishabhadeva. Remember this name. Rishabhadeva. Rishabhadeva, while he ruled Ajanabhavarsham, the province was called Ajanabhavarsham. While he was ruling Ajanabhavarsham, he had many children. The eldest one was called Bharata. Then other 99 sons he had. Now you may ask, sir, 100 sons? 100, literally 100. I used to wonder, see, that lady will be dead by the 10th pregnancy itself. How is it right for a lady? Now, he may have had many wives, that is different. I read a recent report, you can fact check me. A person in Rwanda and Uganda who has 384 children. Check that out. I was amazed. So, this is 100, much lesser. Okay. Now, this Bharata, Bharata was the son of Rishabhadeva. Rishabhadeva, because of his extreme austerities, was able to bring copious rainfall in his region. Indra was extremely upset about this, and then he did his own ways to prevent. Now, the point is, he gave his daughter later, upon course correction, he gave his daughter Jayanti in marriage to Rishabhadeva, and Rishabhadeva produced these sons, Bharata et al. This Rishabhadeva also had another wife. Through him was born Bahubali. Hemi sir? Mana Prabhas gara. Varledu. Varu original Bahubali. So this Bahubali, he went to the south of India and started meditating in a form called as Kayot Sargam. And over him creepers were built, and by the locals he was called by a name called Gomatha. He is addressed as Gomatheshwara in a place called Shravana Belagola. Have you heard? So this Gomatheshwara was that Bahubali. The son born through the other wife. The first wife had a son called Bharata et al. This Rishabhanatha, he goes place after place because he is not interested to continue with the materialistic life. He goes as a Vanaprastha, place after place, and reaches a hillock called as Kutakachalam. This Kutakachalam is the place which we refer to as Kodagu today, Coorg. In Kutakachalam, Rishabhanatha lived the life like that of a python, not as a python, like that of a python. A python doesn't move from its place. So it expects things to come to it. He led a very ascetic life. He was like an avadhuta. He preached certain principles of what he thought was right. And then he vanished into the forest fire. Okay. Now this is important because this Rishabhanatha, he is a partial manifestation of Vishnu. So he will have some characteristics of the Lord. He used to carry a mole, Srivatsam, and a gem-like thing in his center. It was like Kaustubham. This Rishabhanatha later is treated as the first guru of the Tirthankaras in Jainism. We have 24 Tirthankaras, right? The first one is called Rishabhadev, Rishabhanatha. you'll see many Jains having this Rishab. He is called Arihanta, the one who knows everything. That last of the Tirthankaras was Mahavira around the 5th and the 6th century BCE. So the first was before Rama. So this set of principles started getting ripened and then started coming up as a philosophy which is called Jina Matam, which is called Anekantavadam or Syadvadam. That is their philosophy. So this Rishabhanatha is extremely important there. That is why Jainism had a lot of spread in Karnataka. That is why Ramanujacharya chose Karnataka as a place to win over the arguments posed by Jainism and bring them to the fold of sanātana dharma. So this is Rishabhanatha's Charitram. Next. As we deal with Rishabhanatha's Charitram, there is another Charitram which comes in the 7th skandam of Srimad Bhagavatam. After Nrisimhavataram, there is one small portion which talks about a Tripura Samharam. We say Tripurantaka, Yatrikagnikala, Tripurantaka. Lord Shiva is called Tripurantaka, the one who brought an end to the 3 fortresses that were posing a huge death threat, existential threat to people. Now the beauty is, Tripura Samharam talks about the greatness of Mahadeva, Rudramurti. It comes in Bhagavatam because there is also presence of Shiva's Panchaksharam, Shiva Panchaksharam in Bhagavatam. But I'll tell you this, Tripura Samharam comes for a very small portion in the 7th skandam. For detail, it comes in Mahabharata. Where does it come in Mahabharatam? It's very interesting. Now, in Sri Mahabharatam, Pandu married Kunti Bhoja Maharaja's daughter, Kunti. After marriage, a few days after that, he left for a war. And by the end of the war, what was the gift? He married the princess of that region, Madradesham, called as Madri. So Kunti was extremely upset. And then so she was very upset. Eventually, life was not very kind to the couple. He was cursed that they shall not have children of their own. That is when the mantra that she had learnt pre-marriage came to their rescue. She said, I know one mantram, assisted technology. So if I recite this mantram, I will have an instant baby. Whether she was instant baby or she carried that child, that is debatable. But children were born. So she invoked Dharmaraja and Yudhishthira was born as a result. Then she invoked Vayu. Who was born? Bhim. Bhim was born. Bhim boy. He was born. Then after that, she invoked Indra. Who was born? Arjun. Action king was born. Now, Madri felt a lot helpless. She said, see, she knows the answer. Key, I don't know. Then she requested her husband, can you help me? Then he said, no, I will talk to Kunti. I'll consult with her. Consulting is an art, right? So, while I used to be in Pilani, see, first of all, engineers, any engineers here? My deepest condolences. So one person asked me, if you study medicine, what are you? I said, you're a doctor. If you study law, you're a lawyer. If you study accountant, you're an auditor. If you study engineering, upanyasakar. So you become a philosopher in a way. Engineering, people ask, so after engineering, how did you take up to philosophy? I said, engineering made me a philosopher. So, we used to have a course called as quantum chemistry. And my professor, I was not very good at quantum chemistry. At chemistry, quantum was a prefix. So, I was not good at quantum chemistry. So, my professor called me and said, see, you've taken up chemistry and you're doing quantum chemistry. What do you want to do? I had no idea of being an Upanyasaka. I didn't know I will be in LV temple one day. So I said, I'll become a consultant. He said, oh, so what does a consultant do? I said, yeah, consult. What else? So he said, no. What does a consultant do? If a person has a watch and doesn't know how to look at the time on it, he goes to the consultant and asks, how should I look at the time? The person teaches it religiously. And at the end of it, he says, give me the watch as a price. So here we have Pandu who said, I will go ask Kunti, I'll consult. And then Kunti said, okay, I will teach her the mantra, but she has to use it only once. There was a condition in Adi Parva. But Madri, being the intelligent lady she is, she invoked Ashwini Devatas. So there was twins, Nakula Sahadeva. 5 children were born. Then eventually Madri and Pandu died. So she was left as a widow and she had to be the guardian for all the 5 children who were literally partially orphaned. So then she had to bring them up as her very own children. Nevertheless, even if the love was selfless in nature, the 2 sons of Madri always felt that we should contribute more to them. So when the Mahabharata Yuddham preparation was happening, Kunti's relatives, all of them. Krishna was Kunti's relative. Like Kunti's brother's son was Krishna. He said, I'll be with you. So Madri's sons always thought, somebody from our side should come. That is when they wrote to their uncle, Shalya. And Shalya said, don't worry, my dear nephews, I shall be on your side. And he said, I shall come. As Shalya was coming, Shakuni hatched the plan. There were many bhojanalayams where they serve free food and water. Of course, they didn't have that A to B, B to C names. So they used to serve. So as Madradesha Raja, this Shalya, with his army, stationed their army at one place and wanted to have food and water, they saw this bhojanalayam and they entered that place. All of them were covered till here. Only eyes were seen. They were all masked. No Omicron, Delta, nothing should come. They were all masked. So as they were masked, they didn't know who was serving them. Nevertheless, food is being served, let's have. At the end of the food, the finger bowl was given and then it was washed, and then Shalya wanted to check, I'm very extremely grateful to you all for serving such lavish, delicious spread. Can I see your faces, your beautiful countenances? They opened, it was Duryodhana and Dushasana. So Shastram tells, if you have food in somebody's house, do not work against them. Uppittavarai, ullalavum ninai. So now he said, see, I've come to fight against you people and you have served me food. Shakuni said, that was the plan. To bring you in. So he said, you have to fight in our side. You can't go to the side of Pandavas now. So Shalya was forced to be on the side of Dhritarashtra Putras. He immediately messaged Krishna. Krishna, what do I do now? He said, keep your mobile data on. I'll tell you what to do. You be on their side. You just be on their side. So Shalya was very reluctant warrior, was not very active in the war. So the first few days, Bhishma was the commander-in-chief, then Drona, then Karna, because till Bhishma was the commander-in-chief, Karna will not enter the battlefield. Then Karna became. Now when Karna became the commander-in-chief, Karna, as per Vyasa Bharatam, is not that holy, generous person. He was like generous like any other king. And not that holy. Vivastram iti, the shlokam in Sabha Parva, where the ideation and the curation of humiliating Draupadi by stripping her was given by Karna. Ullatil nalla ullam. Super singer, if Shravan sings, mommy cries. Pavam Karnan. Karan kitna hai? Karan Johar. So, this Karan is not that great. He is a very jealous person in Mahabharata. He in director's eyes, he is very good. But in Vyasa's eyes, he is okay. So this Karna always was in a competition with Arjuna. Whatever Arjuna had, he wanted. Jealous man. He couldn't take life as is. A person who refuses to accept life as is will always be a whining individual. என்னோடதான் படிச்சான் எங்க இருக்கான் பார். Always whining, complaining. So this Karna wanted all that Arjuna had, but he could even match Arjuna in many aspects, but not on one thing. Arjuna had one of the greatest advisors in the town, Krishna, as a Sarathi. He could not match that. But he said, I need a very qualified driver. That is when Karna's driver was on casual leave. What do you say? Between jobs. So, while he was not there, he needed a driver. But he said, I want a very qualified driver. Then Duryodhana said, see, I have to help this Karna, else he won't fight. His ego has to be satiated. So he goes to Shalya and says, Shalya, please be his charioteer. And Shalya says, he gives one dialogue, how can I be a charioteer to the charioteer's son? So that was a big ego game. How can I be a charioteer? Duryodhana says, this is a good day. In the all, the good day you become. How do you say that? Are there precedents to it? Asks Shalya. This comes in Karna Parva. That is when Duryodhana states, at one point in time there were 3 asuras. They had sought the boon that their living residences, fortresses, shall be as strong as the one gilded in gold, aurum, silver, argentum, and iron. And when they all keep moving at one point in time, it's a very logically untenable one, but yet if they are flying and they all come in one straight line, because when you have 3 different coordinates, you to get that on one straight line, it's very tough. You have to then bring the line of best fit in analytical geometry. So he said, they should all come in one straight line. Then with one arrow, it should get destroyed. So the Devas thought it is Mahadeva, Rudramurti, who can do this task. They all went to Bhagavan Rudramurti and said, you have to do this. Then it's a beautiful personification, an allegorical situation given. The earth became the chariot. The sun and the moon were the wheels. No, don't literally take from the solar system, it was taken. It means that the aspects of all these grahas were taken. If the earth stands for patience, it is bearing all of us. What better virtue it is? It has patience. Patience of Mother Earth. The everlasting radiance of the sun. The coolness, nectarine rays emanated from the moon. So earth, the chariot, sun and the moon, wheels. The 4 Vedas akin sound as the 4 horses, and Shiva needed a charioteer. So his father became the charioteer. Brahma became the charioteer. Vedo danvad vibhajana vido vamshajam vishwamurtehe, says Vedanta Deshika in Hamsa Sandesham. So this one is cited by Duryodhana to Shalya. He says, Duryodhana says to Shalya, see, that day when Shiva wanted a charioteer, Brahma himself became the charioteer. When Karna asks, you too become. So that is how Tripura Samharam comes there. So then Meru became the bow. That is why Vedanta Deshika says, Lord Shiva uses Meru mountain as the bow. But he succumbs to Parvati's beauty. Kim karo Meru dhanva. Yasyam nityam nayana shatakaihi ekalakshyo mahendraha. Then Vishnu became the arrow. The end of the arrow was Sudarshana Chakra. Hara pura plosha karana. Hara Shiva pura tripuram plosha karana. Jaya Jaya Shri Sudarshana. So then this Tripura, Lord Shiva was with a smile. Nayanmar tells, when he destroyed, he was not tensed. He smiled and destroyed the 3 cities. Sirittanan Purattai Erittanan, he says. So, this incident comes in the Saptamaskandam. Then there is another big scam narration of a yajnam called Daksha Yajnam. Daksha Prajapati had many wives. Again, his daughters were the stars. For every father, the daughter is the star. Here the stars were his daughters. All the nakshatrams we speak about, Anuradha, Punarvasu, Pushya, all these were the stars. They were given in marriage to Chandra. So Chandra had love only extremely on Rohini. She was the page 3 lady. For every party, only Rohini will come. Rohini spotted in a beautiful Paithani with Chandra. What are Anuradha, Uttarettadi, Uttarabhadra, Proshtapada? They are all staying at home making poha. So that is when Daksha curses Soma, that because of your spotless beauty, you seem to have developed this arrogance of not acceding to the request of anybody, so you shall wax and wane. That is why we believe that this curse has been the cause of waxing and waning. It doesn't mean before that Chandra did not wax and wane. It is said that he became a leprosy. That is why you see those craters giving those spots on Chandram. It is called Kalankam. Then, after getting these daughters married, he had another daughter called Sati. This Sati fell in love with Shiva, but Daksha did not approve. He said, see, what is this man always taking bath? Yeah, Alankara Priyo Vishnu, Abhisheka Priyo Shivaha. Vishnu will always take care of his Alankara. Tip top, everything he has to comb. Yes. But whether he takes bath is a big question. Lord Shiva is very clean, always taking bath. Parvati found this very amazing. So only in one place he managed to dress up well. That was Madurai. Now Chitrai Tiruvizha is happening in Madurai. So in Sundareshwara alone he dresses up well. He says, I don't know how your brother manages all this. It is so tough. I'm sweating. It is Madurai, right? I keep sweating. So here we have Daksha opposing Sati's love. But Sati said, no, as per Article 15 and 54F. The constitution has given me the right to marry Shiva, and she went and married Shiva. Once, while the Prajapatis had gathered, Shiva and Brahma were seated in the Sabha. As Daksha enters, every Rishi stands except Shiva and Brahma. This Daksha gets angry. How dare my son-in-law doesn't stand? And he starts abusing Shiva. Yashagnaha nirapatrapaha markatalochana ashuchaye manine pretavaseshu ghoreshu unmatavat nagnaha vyuptakeshaha chitta bhasma krita snanaha. Abuses Shiva. Listening to Daksha abuse Shiva, Nandi gets up. He says, sir, you can't do this to Shiva. And Daksha gets angry. How dare you raise a voice against me? He curses that from now on in a yagam, the havis will not go to Rudra. That is why while performing yagam, when you invoke Rudra, there is a rule in Shrautam that you have to touch waters because you have entered Smashana Bhumi and come out. So if you're doing a yagam, the Vadya will say after Rudraya, touch the water. That is the meaning of it. Then Nandi gives a shapam. He says, tit for tat, shapam for shapam. He says, Daksha, in a few days from now, you will get the head of a goat. Bhrigu says, see, how dare Nandi, you curse Daksha, I will give you a shapam. From now on, the attendants of Bhagavan Rudramurti will have certain practices which are antithetical to the conformations of the Vedas. See, Vedam says, I don't know how many of you remember in Bharata Desham, at least even here, when you end up going and condoling the death of some person in a house, within a span of 10 days, you go, pass your condolence message, come back home and bathe. Correct? It's called Ashaucham. It's the unclean period. So you do that. But the devotees of Shiva started living in the place where Shiva was, Smashana Bhumi. Smashana Bhumi will always have that Ashaucham. So if you go to one sect of Shiva Bhaktas by the banks of river Ganga in Varanasi, they are called Aghoras. They will have bhasmam, they will not wear clothes, they will have jata. Now they will mimic what Shiva does. If Rudramurti does, he is beyond the priests of the Vedas. He is Rudramurti. Now they do it. Now what is happening? See, if I go to any university in India, or some of the universities have spoken in the US, they'll introduce me. He's a Hindu scholar. And there'll be a huge photo behind of the Agoras. So the Western world's understanding of Hinduism comes because this picture attracts their eyes. This picture won't. That they won't put. One banks of the river, Agoras are sitting. They will be having jata. They will be putting that. I say this is one part of, see, Agoras are devotees of Shiva. This represents one sect of Hinduism. Now, this is not the face of Hinduism. They are an integral part. Now, their practices, for example, showing Kapalam. When you touch Kapalam, anything to do with the body, it is Ashaucham. Right? So, their practices will be antithetical to the Vedic aphorisms. Why? Because of Bhrigu Shapam. Bhrigu says, Yesha yeva hi lokanam Shiva pantha sanātana yam purvecha nusamsturya yat pramanam janardana bhavavrata dhara yecha tan samanuvrata pakhindaste bhavantu satchatra paripanthinaha. They will go astray from the Vedic injunctions. One sect of the Shaivas, not everybody. There are 28 Agamas in Shivam, not everybody. This Shapam was given by Bhrigu. So Daksha gave a Shapam, Bhrigu gave a Shapam, Nandi gave a Shapam. Then after all these list of curses, they all returned homes. Then Daksha wanted to insult his son-in-law further. So he performed a yagam called Brihaspati Savam. So he invited everybody except Shiva. Now the other ladies could have kept quiet. While passing through Kailash Manasarovar, Shachi Devi checked on Parvati. They have one group, V4. Gauri, tum aa rahi ho? She asked, Kidhar? आपके पिताजी तो यज्ञ करने वाले हैं. आपको आना चाहिए उधर. Please come. She said, no, I don't know. My father didn't inform me. I'll check. He had blocked Sati. No source of message. But then she says, Anahuta apyabhiyanti sauhridam bhartur gurodeha kritascha ketanam. If it is to a temple, yagam and shravanam, nobody has to invite. See, I can't keep going in Dikshitji, myself, every house. Hello, sir, Seattle. We are undergoing one Bhagavata Saptaham. Please come. See, nowadays marriages have become that, right? Marriages have become their own world of business. I give at least 30-40 lectures in marriages. I see the transformation in the years. Now, it is event management. It is not a marriage. So once you enter the hall, you will have 3-4 women standing in the same uniform. Namaste. You'll feel as if you're entering Lufthansa. Namaste. Namaskaram. Na ungala paathadilliye. I asked them, I've never seen you. Naanu ungala paathadilla. 2000 ரூபாய் கொடுத்துருக்கா வாங்கோன்னு சொல்லியிருக்கா வாய்மொழி உள்ள போங்க. Because we don't have relatives to welcome people, so we have outsourced that. Before this event management, we had one term called contractor. He will do everything except tying of the Mangalya Sutram. Adha and pilla da mannanum. So then you will have one mommy will always be ready with the harati. She in the 7-Up bottle, they would have put that harati, it will have a holes. Mommy, abdina she'll come with harati. Pusukana adutava adu varum. So Sati said, see, for a place which is filled with the vibes of Vedam, you don't need an invitation. Nobody needs to say, please come to the temple. If you want, you come. It's not a problem. See, sanātana dharma is not a movement that is very organized enough to tell, if you don't come, you will get this. There are people who don't come. Alvas did not visit many of the temples. They were able to internalize the Lord. So there's no compulsion that you have to come to the temple. If you find peace, come. If you like the lecture, come. But whether you like it or not, next 5 days you have to come. அவரே சொல்லிவிட்டார். பிடிக்கலைன்னா சொல்லிவிட்டார் அவரே. இந்த திருப்பந்துருத்தி வார்த்தையெல்லாம் என்கிட்ட வச்சுக்கூடாது. நான் பிடிச்சிருவேன் எல்லாரையும். அந்த கேமராலாம் அவர் வச்சிருக்காரு. எல்லாத்துக்கும் டிக்கெட் வந்துடும். So you have to come after 7 days. For any other lecture, you can use this rule. பிடிச்சா அங்கே வராட்டா போங்க, பிடிக்கலையா வந்தாகணும் அடுத்த 5 நாள். So she said, Anahuta apyabhiyanti sauhridam bhartur guro deha kritascha ketanam. I will go uninvited. It's my father's house. Now if I tell about Sati, you will remember one scene. Sati and Shiva fighting. Right? So Shiva said, see, don't go. He does not like me. He won't like you. She said, no, I will go. She left. Then she went and fought for the rights of her husband. Why have you not called my husband? Mappillena avlo korachu edaitutela. And all this, the father didn't agree. Finally, she sat in yoga. Intense yogic posture will generate a fire from within. That burnt her from the within. Like how we talk about bleeding. Bleeding doesn't have to be external alone. It can be internal as well. If your platelets, thrombocytes are not functional enough, you will have internal bleeding as well. Similarly, fire doesn't have to burn you from the outside. It can burn you from the within. Eno advertisement, you remember? They'll show the fire inside the stomach. Fire eriyirde. Where will you see that fire? Panchikarana prakriya. So the Sati, that fire burnt her. Now, of course, the later Rajput kings came up with the concept because it was very tough to live during the times of invasion. So the women had to jump into fire. So that was called Sati. But original Sati, she didn't fall into fire. The yogic fire burnt her. Tataswabhartus charanambujasavam jagadguros chintayatina cha param dadarsha deho hatakalmashasati sadyah prajajwala samadhi jagnina. As Sati, the fire consumed her, Shiva got mad. He sent one murti called Veerabhadra. Veerabhadra Stuti is very integral to Sri Mahabharatam. And Veerabhadra came and chopped off the head of Daksha. There was a sacrificial goat's head kept. Again, scientifically, I don't know how, because this is of a different genus, species, kingdom and phylum. You have to bring the head together. But he had a Ajamukha. Further things, Bhrigu and all those, one rishi lost the beard, one rishi lost the teeth. So from the goat, the hair was taken and fixed for all these rishis. All this plastic surgery happened. Then after that, Daksha, he sought remorse and he said, I should have not hurt Shiva like this. He could have told this at the start itself. He could have avoided all this bloodshed. But anyways, why does Shuka Brahmam talk about Daksha Yajnam? It is not relevant at all to Parikshit's question, because if you hurt a Bhagavatottama, all these anartham will happen. Vaishnavanam aham Shambhuhu. Amongst the devotees, I am Shambhu. If you hurt Shambhu, the Lord will get hurt. So all this anartham will happen. So to get rid of that Shiva Dvesham, I will read out one shloka from Shivananda Lahari. Guhayam geheva bahirapivane drishikare jaleva vanhauva vasatu vasate kim vadaphalam sada yasyaivantak karanamapi shambho tava pade sthitam ched yogo so sacha parama yogi sacha sukhi. Nayanmar describes the beauty of Shiva. Kunitta puruvamum kovvai sevvayit kumitchirippum panitta shadayum pavalampol meniyitpal venneerum initta mudaya edutha porpadamum kaana petral manitta piraviyum venduvade immanilatte. Very handsome. Shiva is treated as very handsome. He had the texture of a redness on him. That is why his son Skanda is also called Shayyon. So that said, now in this Bharata, Rishabhanata's son, you remember I spoke about Bharata. This Bharata left his kingdom and went and started doing dhyanam in Shalagrama Kshetram of Nepal by the banks of river Gandaki. Purely engaged in dhyanam. One day what happened, as he was doing dhyanam, he saw a pregnant doe being chased by a tiger, and in the due process of jumping one boulder to the other, the doe's stomach hit the rock and the little one fell into the flowing waters onto a leaf. The doe ran, the tiger ran. Now come to the baby deer. Bharata was seeing this baby going afloat the waters. He wanted to protect the little one, brought it close, washed it, did a proper nursing job to it, and then nurtured and nourished the little deer as his very little one. So 24 hours he was doing dhyanam. Now that was reduced by half, 12 hours. Because the rest of the 12 hours he has to give milk, pasta, all that to that. So he had to do the mundane job. Then that 12 hours further, that deer has to go to school. Right. Then he has to be the Indian father. He has to put the deer into extra classes. So that 12 hours dhyanam became 6 hours. Then you have to do advanced maths. Then all this you have to do. Then 6 hours became 4. Then you have to get into a university, right? So which scores will help? All this, slowly the 2 hours, 1 hour, dhyanam went away. But Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, yo yam yam. When the Jivatma exits the body, whatever the chittam thinks, the mind thinks, the Jivatma shall be that. It is called tat kratu nyayam. So, while the Jivatma was exiting Bharata's body, he was always concerned about how the deer would be. As he was thinking about the deer, the Jivatma exited, he became the yellow, perfect. Now, this deer, it was born and it was nourished in the Karanja Parvatam. Karanja Parvatam is in the upper part of Uttar Pradesh. Sir, simple. What is so great? Now the greatness begins here. This deer was able to remember what he had performed in the previous Janmam. Is that possible, sir? Very tough. 1 in a lakh can do it. They can remember their previous Janma. They are called by a technical name, Jati Smaraha. I'm sure those of you who are voracious readers would have come across Dr. Wees, One World, Many Masters. It talks something about the remembrances of the past. So, here, this deer was able to remember his previous Janmam. He went back to Shalagrama Parvatam, to the same hermitage where he was Bharata in his previous Janmam. And he kept thinking of Vedic learning. Because he had learnt Vedas in his previous Janmam, he was just able to recollect the lines of the Vedas. Of course, not opening because it is a deer. But in his Chittam, those lines were going. As the Jivatma was to exit the body of the deer, he became a Brahmana. This Brahmana was born in a kulam, but he was very, very aloof from most of the earthly practices. So people thought he was not receptive to the worldly questions. So he's like an insentient matter. So he was called Jada. Since he was Bharata in 2 births before, both together became Jada Bharata. This Jada Bharata started loitering in the forest. He was then looking at his obese body. He was not eating much, but he was obese. See, this is where Anumanam says, if you are fat, you have to eat. Not necessary. See, I don't eat much, but when I see others eat, I become fat. If I see somebody eat, I put on weight. That is my body constitution. So this Jada Bharata, being a big source of flesh and blood, was pulled by the cannibals, the Kali Bhaktas, and he was to be sacrificed to Kali. Kali came and said to you, he's a great Bhakta, don't do it. And she sacrificed those people who were sacrificing. Now, as he was loitering in the forest, the attendants of a king called as Rahu Guna Maharaja. He was the king of Sindhu Sauvira Pradesham. What is Sindhu Sauviram? Sindh is current day region around Karachi. You have heard of Sindhi? Sindhi belong to the Sindh region. Technically, Bharata doesn't have Sindh with it now. VK Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Bharata, Sindh alla illa namagitta. Sindh is gone. So that was Sindh, lower part of Pakistan, if you can understand the map. The upper part of Pakistan and some parts of Afghanistan was called Sauviram. At one point in time, it was called as Kekayam. So, in a place called Jalalabad today was the capital of the kings of Kekaya Desham. They were all called by a surname called Ashwapati. Ashwapati Maharaja was the maternal grandfather to Bharata. Gacchata matulakulam bharatena tata anagaha shatrugnaha nityashatrugnaha nitaf priti puraskritaha. So, this place kings were called Ashwapati because their major trade was to nurture horses and export them. That is why in Ayodhya Kandam, when Bharata returns to Ayodhya, he comes with 1,600 trained horses. Ashwa. So Ashwa in Persian language, Shwa doesn't have a, for example, Bengali language doesn't have Va. So every Va will become Ba. Similarly, Persian language didn't have Shwa. So Fa is the replacement. So Ashwa became Afgha. So that region is called Afghanistan for that region. Similarly, the lower part of Pakistan, Sindh, was also good in training horses. That is why horses from Sindh were called Saindhavam. You put it in dictionary. Saindhavam means horse. Interestingly, Sindhu also means ocean. Ocean gives rise to salt, so salt is also called Saindhavam. If I'm eating curd rice and ask for Saindhavam, you should bring the salt, not the horse. Now the Sindhu Sauvira had a king called as Rahuguna. Rahuguna wanted to get a few doubts cleared from Kapilacharya. You remember? 650 I spoke about Maharishi Kapilacharya Kritagnyana I spoke. So this Kapilacharya, he was so from Sindhu Sauvira, he travelled to Kapilashramam via Kurukshetra, Haryana. There was a tributary to the Saraswati river called Ikshumati. While travelling through Ikshumati, one of the persons who was carrying the palanquins, he had some arthritis problem. He said, I can't come. So they needed one person. These soldiers found this well-built Jada Bharata. Vaya, they brought him. Now, while Jada Bharata was carrying the palanquin, it was just after the rainy season, he saw rows of ants going. He didn't want to crush them, so he jumped. As he jumped at 6.4 Richter scale, there was a small tremor felt in the palanquin. So this Maharaja opened the curtains. Yarni. Like he had to check who you are. Why are you seem well built? You are very well built. Why are you jumping like this? Shreyah kimatram samsare dukkhapraye nrinamiti prashtum tam moksha dharmagyam kapilakhyam mahamunim. You are very well built. Why are you jumping? You seem well. To which he should have answered something. Jada Bharata then said, I am neither stout nor thin. I am different from what you perceive me to be. It was very sounding similar to that the me is in the me, in the me, in the me. So this king was doubtful. What is he telling, sir? Can you explain? That is when Jada Bharata tells the Atma is eternal, Nityam. What keeps going body after body is Jivatma. It doesn't feel the thirst, the hunger. What is perishable, decayable is the material body. So, when I say I am Rahuguna, I am actually mentioning that the Rahuguna is the name of the body and not the Atma. All this he said, then Rahuguna Maharaja said, I don't have to go to Kapila Ashramam, you are my Acharya. So, Jada Bharata gave this quintessential knowledge to Rahuguna Maharaja. This Sambadam is very important. Because of this knowledge that was so refined and tall in nature that was found in Jada Bharata, this Desham also produces knowledge, so this land was called Bharata. Sir, because of this Bharata it is called Bharata. I thought it was because of Dushyantha's son. I would love to say that. But not because of my son. My son was good. Bharata was good. He was a good administrator. But there are 4 Bharatas. One is this Jada Bharata. Second is Rama's brother Bharata. Bharataya param namostu tasmai prathamodaharanaya bhakti bhajam. Third is Dushyantha's son Bharata. He's also called Dushyanthi, the son of Dushyantha. It comes in Shatapatha Brahmanam. Shatapatha Brahmanam is a part of which Vedam? Atharva illa. Atharva engalukku actor அவர் என்ன நடிப்பார். அப்புறம் யாரு Atharva தானே முரளி பிள்ளை. Not that Atharva. Who is, it is a part of Shukla Yajurvedam. Shatapatha. That is why Vedanta Deshika says Sudarshana is spoken in Shatapatha Brahma Vandita. Adilya Sudarshana Ashtakatla. Shatapatha. So in Shatapatha Brahmanam, Dushyanthi, the son of Bharata, son of Dushyantha, as Bharata is mentioned. The 4th Bharata is Bhavaragatal Ityanena Bharata, who gave us Bharata Muni, Natya Shastram. So all 4 Bharatas were great, but Bharata Desham is called Bharata Varsham because of Jada Bharata. But what did Bharata say? Bharata said, you have taken 11 minutes from your ordained time. More. So Dushyanth, stick to your time. You're starting at the right time. People have to go eat, digest, sleep. So tomorrow we are going to have Saptama Skandam and some part of Ashtama Skandam. So tomorrow we will be dealing with one of the grandest of avatarams. Very short duration, immense impact, which is Nisimha Avataram tomorrow. So please be available, present. I'm sure a lot of you are working. I'm not insisting, coaxing, but still, with an ardent request, Saptaham is a rarity. In English is the rarest of the rare. So please make hay. I'm sure the sun has started shining in your city. It's high time you make hay. Make some spiritual hay for yourself. So tomorrow, day 3 is Nisimhavataram. Please be present. Day 4, which is Tuesday, is Matsyavataram, Kurmavataram, Vamanavataram, Gajendra Moksham, and Shri Krishna Jananam. So 2 consecutive days. Somehow manage your time, prove your management skills there, manage your time really well. I'm sure you're all adept enough to do it. And please be present for all these days till the Friday. As requested, this is being conducted generously, magnanimously under the guidance of our Dikshit Swami and Astikas by the temple. Your contributions for this purpose will come a lot helpful for the temple. Thank you so much. Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha Swasti Prajabhyav Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobrahmanebhyash Shubham Astu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Kayena Vacha Manasendriyaiva Buddhyatmanaba Prakritisvabhavat Kalyana Rupaya Kalau Jananam Kalyana Dhatre Karuna Sudhabdhe Kamvadi Divya Yudha Satkaraya Vatalayadhisha Namo Namaste Narayana 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 Coming Saturday and Sunday, May 6th and 7th, I'm speaking in Meenakshi Temple, Houston. 18 Rahasyas on the Ramayana. If you have folks there, please do ask them to attend. May 8th to 14th, Narayaniya Saptaham at the Balaji Temple of Great Lakes, Detroit. May 15th to 21st, Bhagavata Saptaham at the Hindu Temple of Greater Lemont, Chicago. May 22nd to the 28th at Frisco, Sri Vedanta Sabha, Dallas, Bhagavata Saptaham. All in English. If you have friends and relatives who can make time, who have the ears to hear, please ask them to come. Thank you.